What's going on, fish? Welcome back to the Coy Pond, episode 42, and we are only a week away from. That's right.
That's right.
1 week away from NFL football, baby. It's right there. The depression is almost over. People say seasonal depression happens in the winter. Fuck them. It's the summer because I don't have any goddamn NFL football. Welcome back.
We are ready. It's good. We are so ready for football. Yes. We are ready for betting on games. We are ready for fantasy.
Skyline Coney's on Sunday.
The weather's starting to turn. All the good stuff that comes together to make fall arguably the best time of year.
You know, we're going to have Saturdays covered with college football, Sundays covered, Mondays covered, Thursdays covered. Life is about to get a lot better. And if you're a nut like us, the quality of life goes through the roof here for about 4 to 5 months.
Yes.
And it cannot be stressed enough. However, we still got to get through the week.
We do.
We can do it. It's the end of the...
Almost there.
So close.
Yes.
We can do it. But, you know, this week we're just going to kind of talk about some of the headlines or storylines, however you want to phrase it, that we're kind of looking forward to the most. You know, based off how last year ended. You know, Ravens kind of blowing it. No carries. The Lions choking it. No win. Chiefs win it a fucking again. Will they do it this year? We're going to kind of talk about it. And then also, you know, between his Cowboys and the Chargers I love, kind of talk about that a little bit on the side as well. If you're into either of those teams, stick around.
Right on. Why don't we start with the Lions and the Niners? Let's
okay.
Start there. So, just to pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
You know, just a terrible...
Yeah.
The Lions had the Niners 20-7, if I remember right.
Yes.
And the Niners just came back, and
that was not the final score.
The Lions kind of, you know,
they fizzled out.
It
sucks to say they had it, and they didn't.
Yeah, and you know, being from where we are here in the Midwest, so we know a lot of people that like the Lions. We like the Lions to some extent. I would say.
I feel like as an NFL fan, generally, you're going to root for the Lions. Lions have been pretty bad for a long time, and ever since, oh my God, I can't think of Dan
Campbell?
Dan Campbell. Ever since Dan Campbell's been there, you know, there's been a bit of hope that we haven't seen in quite some time.
Yep.
Megatron came back, Barry Sanders came back, Eminem supported the team. Everything was coming together.
All people that wanted nothing to do with the Lions prior to Dan Campbell.
And from Detroit.
Yeah. So really bringing respect back to that whole franchise for sure.
Yes.
And you know, Jared Goff played really well. The season, had a good game in the Niners, and they just, some things just didn't happen right in the second half of that game. And so the big thing I'm looking forward to is, can the Lions get over that hump? Because they're right there. They were right there, and you know, depending on what happens with the Niners and Ayuk, which is still to be determined.
Yep.
You know, the Lions had a good draft. You know,
they'd had an amazing draft.
The Niners, I think, drafted okay too, but there's a chance the Lions can, you know, one more year in Dan Campbell's program, they could leap them.
Yeah,
it could happen this year.
It could be, and you know, you never know with injuries. Obviously, Gibbs earlier in before preseason, I can't remember when it happened. He had that hamstring thing injury, and for a little bit there, people were freaking out. As of a week ago, when we're recording this, it was being said that there was a good chance he'd come back week 1. It sounds like the injury's not as bad as what it could have been.
Yeah.
You know, all the fear, which is good. But also, they added to the depth at running back. They've got, I can't remember who the second string is. I know they've got David Montgomery.
Yeah.
But their guy they drafted this year has also looked really good in the preseason games. Baki,
I think.
Something like that. But he's looked really good. So they added that depth. Even if Gibbs got hurt, they still have Amon St. Brown. They still have... another running back, but everyone came back.
Laporta, the tight end.
Oh, Laporta. How the fuck could I forget him?
Yeah, fantastic.
But the whole team's pretty much back.
With Aiden Hutchinson still there.
Yeah.
He's a menace.
Demon. I mean, that defense can only get better, it feels like. With how it started initially last year, with how much those corners were letting up, I think they had a pretty good cornerback battle this year.
They did, yeah.
So you would expect that's going to bring the best out of everyone, at least on that defense.
Yeah. I really think they're primed. I really think they're going to have a good shot. You know, as usual, it comes down to who stays healthy on all these teams, no matter who it is.
Yes.
But I just think Dan Campbell, you know, he's kind of an X factor. How did he learn from last year? Mm-hmm. We know he went for 2 a lot of times. It was Cowboys not popular with some people.
Yep.
Does he keep coaching that way? He played that way, that's for sure, when he was a player. But do they keep going with that, or does he maybe develop with a little more experience in his coaching, what he does.
Keeping that momentum, not maybe gambling quite as much unless it has to be done, which we've seen circumstances, but we've also seen coaches like Brandon Staley that don't know when to say, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Only rides with the stats. And that's not what I'm saying Dan Campbell is at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you learn from that sort of thing, and we'll see what type of growth he's had. It's going into his fourth season with the Lions? Third season?
Maybe third.
Maybe third.
Yeah.
Don't quote us, please.
So, but yeah. So for me, I'm definitely looking forward to the Lions and where they pick up after the way that heartbreakingly ended for them.
That was rough, and obviously the Packers now are a conversation.
Yeah.
So the NFC North at that point
is crowded.
It's going to be a different battle. Caleb Williams coming in, Jordan Love heating up. Vikings, who knows what they look like? Probably not bad.
If the Bears, if the Bears resemble anything remotely of what they've done in the preseason, they are going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Caleb Williams certainly has the ability to light it up with the weapons that he's got. He's shown that already.
They have a crazy wide receiver room. They have Swift now as a running back, which is a great additional Lions player.
Yeah.
They've added to their defense that was getting pretty good towards the end of the last year too.
Yeah. Eberflus is a defensive coach, so
you would expect
that's where he gravitates towards. So a really good linebacker coach, really good defensive coordinator style guy.
Right.
So I think they're going to be, they're going to be that whole, like you said,
division.
It's going to be something.
It could be pretty good, and it could just be a whole lot of overreacting, and who knows what happens and who gets hurt. But I think the Lions making it back to the championship is going to be a huge deal, because if they miss it, that conversation is going to get loud for what that team looks like going forward.
Real fast, yeah.
Because I think it's been talked about a little bit, at least this past summer, about how wide is this window for the Lions?
Mm-hmm.
How long does this last? Obviously, last year was one of those years that people were hoping for the best, and they got pleasantly surprised with the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
But if they get, I would imagine, knock on wood, they make it to the playoffs.
Yep.
From there, as long as they don't get first rounded, it's probably a pretty good season. It's not going to feel that way, but going through it'll be interesting. I don't know exactly what their season looks like on a how the schedule, how difficulty of schedule is, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and again, the draft that they had, you mentioned at the cornerbacks, Terry and Arnold, Enos Rakestraw from Missouri. Something they knew they had to beef up. That was an issue in the championship game, and they did it. They went after that and turned what was maybe a weakness into a strength.
So that Vaki guy was drafted as a safety, and he's a running back now. Is he the same guy?
I don't know. That's a great question.
1 second, people. We've uncovered some sauce. I think
you're right.
Because there can't be that many Vakis in the NFL. I know some of these names you can be like, well, I don't know which one you're talking about. No, there's only one running back.
That's him. He was a safety. That's crazy shit.
All right, we've confirmed it.
Wow.
The guy they drafted third round, or around 5.
Yeah. As a safety.
As a safety, has been transferred to a running back that looks pretty damn good.
That's kind of amazing.
Regardless.
Yeah.
That Vaki looks pretty good. Sion.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd
say
it.
Had a great run. 36 yards via back-to-back catches.
He might be a good not X factor, but a good person to throw in on plays.
Yeah.
They're not ready for. Who knows? But
I'm thinking that was a typo on that draft thing.
It has to be.
It has to be.
But he looks really good.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, that Vaki guy looks really good, and who knows? We'll have to see with the Lions. It feels like they've prepped and they addressed issues that they've clearly had.
Yep.
Trying to think NFC as well. You have to look at the Cowboys and Eagles. No one's won that division back to back, and a long time.
I don't think it's going to happen again. So, I really, really think that it's going to be the Eagles win it. I think that they're primed after the way they were embarrassed at the end of last year. Well, basically the second half of the season plus. Yeah,
missing that Italian stallion on the sideline. It really feels like they're going to be amped up this year and ready to kind of take back the East. I don't necessarily see the Commanders or the Giants being contenders, but
Daniel Jones just doesn't have it. They're going to have to move on after this year.
It feels bad.
It just hasn't been good, and again, I think the Eagles. You got now you got Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator. He knows something about the Cowboys.
True.
So that's going to be an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you said Saquon Barkley. They also fixed that defense.
Yep.
They did really well in the draft with corner and safety.
Yep.
That was a big problem they had, so that problem should be addressed. And again, I think they're just gonna. I think they just want it more this year.
I could definitely see that, especially with how the Cowboys have just been acting in free agency in general. You look at what was it? The Eagles are missing Jason Kelce this year.
True,
but I don't see that being a reason they lose games.
That would probably be the single biggest thing that I would be keeping an eye on, is because I saw them run the tush push and they didn't get it. So it's just gonna be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
I could definitely see the Eagles getting away from that and just being, Kellen Moore just being like, because I think he's more of a pass-heavy offensive coordinator as it is. Yeah. Herbert had a great year with him when he wasn't hurt.
Yeah,
Dak, of course, did really well with him as an offensive coordinator from what I could tell.
Yeah.
But he is more pass-heavy. So I would look to not as many tush pushes, and maybe they'll try a couple here and there.
Yep.
But
very exciting. I mean, Cowboys, I'll just go ahead and hit that. Really exciting. I mean, we needed an interior defensive lineman. We needed some beef in there to stop the run. Been a problem with Dallas for a long time now. They had the one guy from Ohio State. I can't think of his name, but he left via free agency.
Right.
So they had to fill that spot. They went out and got Jordan Phillips, which I'm really excited about.
Yes, that was a great pickup.
He's like 6'4" and 330 pounds.
Big
Jonathan
body.
Hankins is the guy that left.
Gotcha.
So I think Jordan Phillips is something that they haven't had probably ever. So going out and getting Carl Davis too, the pass rusher as well. I think they really beefed up that defensive line. So I'm very excited about that. DeMarvion Overshone, who's a linebacker they drafted last year from Texas, had a great preseason.
That's good.
Long arm span, and then got hurt. So he didn't play at all last year.
Gotcha. So this is kind of his makeshift rookie season.
It is. So the defense, to me, I mean, the secondary is outstanding.
Yeah.
The corners and the safeties, they're deep.
And it looked like you added 2 or 3 more based on how the preseason went with them.
And there's a linebacker they got from Notre Dame, and I think he's going to be really well too.
If it's from Notre Dame linebacker, we're probably going to be just fine.
What worries me about the Cowboys is what's going on with CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
Is that going to get settled? There's something bigger brewing there.
Yeah.
We're getting up to the end of the preseason. Well, it's time to get everybody in the barn.
If
right?
it hasn't happened yet in the week that we haven't been here to, we're doing this a week earlier than we usually do. So if it hasn't happened by now, it's a problem.
You're right. And then there's the running back room. So the Cowboys, fall in love with players, and I think that's what they're doing with Zeke Elliott right now. They have him listed at the top of the chart on the running back spot. I think that's a mistake. They've got they need to go probably with Royce Freeman instead of Zeke, and then go with Rico Dowdle.
Dowdle
instead.
He's a legend.
So they've got a couple guys, and I'll tell you, Chris Vaughn, who his dad is in the scouting department with the Cowboys, and they drafted him last year. It was that sweet story, right? His game against the Raiders, he'd been out hurt for quite a while and had really bulked up.
Yeah.
He was juking and spinning and looked really good, like a change of pace kind of guy with a lot of quickness that the rest of those guys don't have.
Interesting.
So I don't know. There's nobody that stands up above. They're all kind of in this middle thing. I just hope that they don't fall in love with the name or the guy that was there and not make the decision based on who should be. So
you got to go with who's doing the best.
That's my biggest concern.
I could see it.
We know Mike McCarthy is not a big running guy anyway. He loves to throw the ball a shit ton.
Yeah.
They're going to do end rounds with CD if he's back. They're going to do the same thing with Turpin. So they get the run accomplished many different ways. But I just hope they go with the best players in the backfield.
That's fair. I get that. Chargers have sucked trying to stop the run for as long as I've remembered rooting for them. And now, finally, Harbaugh, I'm hoping some of the defensive issues, you thought would be solved with Staley that clearly weren't, potentially get stopped here and now.
Yeah.
Especially after he gets his guy from Michigan.
Junior Colson,
who had a great, a lot of these players that were looking kind of iffy for the Chargers after the first preseason game looked a hell of a lot better preseason week 2.
Really?
I was really excited about that. Easton Stick still looked miserable. I don't think him making the team would be crazy. I think Luis Perez will probably be the backup. But aside from that sort of thing, Chargers, if they can just lock down some of the defensive problems they've had in the last 2-3 years, that would be amazing, because Herbert has scored and scored and scored, and they've never stopped anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, the first game last year against the Dolphins was like a 35-31 game. And then from there on, it just gets worse. So I'm hoping that sort of thing stops. Harbaugh being back in the league, aside from him being the Chargers head coach, is definitely something that I'm looking forward to. Obviously, with the Chargers, I love it. Wide receivers with the Chargers, we'll see what happens. I hope Brendan Rice ends up making the 53-man roster.
I bet he will.
I heard good things from week 1, didn't hear much from week 2 of the preseason. Quentin Johnston got a pretty good ball.
Did he?
During the second week of preseason that I was
contested?
Yeah,
nice.
Impressed with. So, social media loves to clown the poor guy. He did have an atrocious first year. But, it all you see is him putting in work. And I'm really, really rooting for him, because it got loud last year for the poor guy. And I'm just hoping he can bring it back this year, because it's going to be him or Ladd. It could be Ladd McConkey. It could be Josh Palmer. Yeah. It could be Quentin Johnston as the wide receiver 1. DJ Shark. I mean... Wow. Fucking any of them. Yeah. I personally don't know. I haven't looked that much because it's preseason and I don't want to get my hopes up either way. But we'll see what happens. They've got a plethora of mid-wide receivers and rookie wide receivers to pick from. But with Herbert, I feel like he can get done if he can stay healthy. They added Joe Alt to the mix, and he's been a demon. Okay. Joe Alt on one side of the line, Rashawn Slater on the other side of the line. I've got a little bit of hope that Herbert will have his first full healthy season, considering that really hasn't happened yet in his career. So... we'll see. If the Chargers don't do well this year, I think it's going to get real loud for Justin Herbert and a bunch of these people that are, love to make fun of the Chargers fans that are like, well, if he had, or if this happened, I give Harbaugh a couple years with Herbert and see what happens from there, because this is his 3rd head coach.
Yeah, I think
Anthony Lynn, and then right into Brandon Staley, right into Jim Harbaugh. Not good.
Not good.
Not great. I'm going to leave it there, because the what-ifs Chargers fans piss me off too. But, we're just hoping for the best now that line should be pretty solid. And they even got Disley from the Seahawks. I don't know if he's making...
Will Disley?
Yeah, I don't know I don't know if he'll make the team or not, but he's supposed to be a pretty good blocking tight end.
Okay.
So, Harbaugh's beefing up all the blocking, all the tackling, which, frankly, if they can just lock down the fundamentals, I'll be impressed.
Yeah.
With how the team's been. But... I sidetracked there. Harbaugh being back in the NFL for the Ravens Chargers game this upcoming year. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for how Harbaugh's taken notoriously bad programs and turned them very good. Michigan, 49ers when he came in, Chargers, maybe. We'll see what happens. But, just excited for the season. Good time to go back. Maybe we talk a little bit about the AFC and how that turned out last year.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. We swam our way through the NFC well and tied it in, and then shifted over to the AFC and tied it in. And now we go back to another Harbaugh, right?
Yep, the other one.
And so, again, kind of like the Lions, really mirror images to an extent. Coming up on the short side of the championship games.
Yep.
The Ravens, to me, a game that they should have been more competitive in. Got away from themselves.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, I don't know what they were really trying to do there.
I would love to know the behind the scenes on why they only ran the ball 3 times, how they got... I think Kelsey got open once or twice for pretty big plays, if I remember right. I could be completely wrong, but...
Andrews?
I was talking about Kelsey on the Chiefs. They gave up a couple big plays there on the Chiefs side of the ball, as well as not doing what they should have on the offensive side.
Yep.
And then Zay Flowers, I remember he fumbled right there at the goal line.
He did.
And that was a big point.
Just trying to do too much,
and then, messed up his finger, banging his hand on the sidelines, if I remember right.
Yeah, will he mature? Will he come back around? Because, that has to be torturing him ever since it ended.
You would assume
there's just no way it's not.
That adds quite a bit. And, to address the carries, they bring in Derrick Henry.
And I'll tell you what, that's one hell of a...
that move in itself is nuts.
If there's what it reminded me of is back in the 90s when the Cowboys won 2 Super Bowls, lost to the 49ers, Deion Sanders, and the next season Jerry lured Dion away from the Niners to the Cowboys, and then the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. And I mean, when you get a team that has that one gap that they're missing, that one thing, electric playmaker guy, Dion said, Derrick Henry is going to be that for the Ravens. And if he can stay healthy and they can feed him the ball, he is going to make Lamar Jackson's life so much better.
Yeah.
And he's going to give them so much more weaponry on offense. I just think that's such an exciting... I'm not a Ravens fan, but I'm excited by that signing, what it could be.
Yes, because you'd have to imagine they're going to try and convince Lamar not to run quite as much.
Yeah.
Obviously he will when he has to. He's not a dumb player.
Yeah.
But with Derrick Henry, they're going to be way more worried about that rush because, for the last couple seasons, if I'm remembering this right, the first and second strings for the Ravens running back room have been just getting hurt. Hurt, and now they're both on the Chargers. But regardless of that, if Derrick Henry just stays healthy, they have their running back one that every defense is going to have to be worried about.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's unbelievable how they kept it going as well as they have. I mean, this goes over like 5 years, I think.
It feels like
I mean, it's just been a ton of running backs that have been decimated in that backfield on that team. It's just it's nuts.
And by the time they got to the playoffs or somewhere around there, that third string running back or fourth string had looked pretty good.
Yeah.
It might have been Khalil something or something Khalil, but you just got to hope for the best. And again, if you want to talk about that championship game, it feels like the Chiefs have only gotten better.
Yeah.
They still have Travis Kelce, but now they've added Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
Rashee Rice doesn't have a suspension. They had another guy on that team.
Yeah,
Is Hardman back on there, maybe? And someone else.
Yeah.
It feels like they added to the wide receiver room of what was the first few weeks of last season where they couldn't catch a ball.
Yep.
I'm sure now they won't have a problem catching a ball.
No. And again, on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of young talent there.
Yep.
Again, 2/3 of their cap is on offense. So, I mean, Mahomes, Kelce, so you've only got 1/3 of your total cap to spend on your defense. So they've got a lot of young, inexpensive guys, but talented guys.
Yeah, and they still have Chris Jones, too.
They do.
I mean that's a demon in itself. You got to double team him right out of the gate.
Oh, that's no doubt. I mean, he's a beast.
So
that guy can single-handedly change games. So
yeah, and they did lose Snead, though. Right?
They did. I think they did Snead.
I can't remember where he went. I remember that was kind of a big deal, but maybe you see some impact with that on their defense, but all that means is they get to score more points against you.
Yeah, right.
Because it feels like Mahomes has entered his Tom Brady era in the sense that they know they don't have to win every game by 1,000.
Right.
They just have to win and get to the end of the season. If they lose one or two here and there, they're still pretty confident because Lord only knows what the Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos are going to do in regular season.
Yeah, you brought this up last year. It was a really great observation. I mean, and again, it kind of reminded me of the Cowboys with Aikman, kind of in the later of the Super Bowl years, to where when they won the third Super Bowl during that era against the Steelers, they were just doing enough to win some games.
Yep.
They weren't. It wasn't like the previous times where they didn't give a shit. They just knew they had to get to this, and then the real thing starts.
Yeah.
And you could
turn
just
it up.
Huh?
Then you just turn it on and it's over.
And it's amazing, these teams like the Chiefs who get to that to where they just know how to do that. It's impressive to watch.
And it just shows how
it is a switch.
How much of a veteran team that is.
Right.
Or how much it's led by veteran players, maybe is the better way to say it. Because, I'm assuming they kept a good amount of their offensive line. Obviously, they kept those wide receivers and tight end.
Yeah.
They kept a lot of the defensive tackles, lost a couple corners, or just Snead. Who I don't know, but I just mean this team is experienced in winning.
They are,
and when you get to that point, you're right. People realize we lost by 2 points because of a fluke call and this play, and they won't eat them alive the rest of the season.
Right.
They'll just get over it and go beat the shit out of whoever's next.
Right.
Or win.
Exactly. And it's interesting because you got Dan Campbell, who is that enthusiastic coach on the one side. He didn't get over the hump.
No.
You got John Harbaugh, who's more of a mellow kind of guy. They're kind of opposites.
Right.
He's not really an outwardly.
You don't see many highlights of him completely screaming. Once in a while, like any coach, but not a crazy amount of emotion.
Yeah. And really, to me, you see the games where they struggle, he has that just like
1,000-yard.
That look on his face, like he's just, like,
fuck?
like destroyed.
Yes.
It's so opposite of Dan Campbell. But it'll be interesting to see if John Harbaugh can get the team over the hump as well.
Yeah, and then you have I'm trying to think of some of those teams that were on the outside last year. Was it the Texans the Chiefs beat that second playoff game? Or Texans will be back. They're fully loaded in the AFC. That could be, I wouldn't say a dark horse, but they're not the Chiefs or the Ravens. So
right. Definitely could be.
Could be. You go to the NFC, same thing with the Packers. They're kind of on the same trajectory in my head, at least. Maybe,
I agree with you.
Maybe not the popular opinion. And then, wild card teams. Who knows who comes out looking good? The Bills, no one knows what that team looks like in the regular season. I haven't really heard any news either way. I don't even know if Von Miller's still there or not.
Yeah.
But, I heard Coleman didn't have the best preseason look so far this season, which was a huge draft pick for them considering Diggs and Davis are gone.
No.
Just Trevor Lawrence, does he come out with some fire this year, or does that team kind of start fizzling because they lost? They got Gabe Davis, but they lost Calvin Ridley.
Right.
He's on the Titans. A couple big names on the Titans, but that's Will Levis. So,
yep.
Lord,
it's
gonna be a crazy first month. The overreactions, and whoever's at the top at the end of the first month probably not gonna be at the top the whole season.
Like we said, laying on the NFC side, they I don't know how they don't make it to the playoffs.
Right.
Again, because they're coming out of that South that really
doesn't feel like it has much to it.
Doesn't have a ton. So, and again, like we said, Eagles going to be in the mix there somewhere. But who knows?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like I'm missing an NFC division: North, South, East, NFC West. Oh, 49ers.
Yeah. So we know they'll be, as long as Christian McCaffrey is healthy, they'll be in there somewhere.
Yeah, just rollovers anytime touchdown every week. Make yourself a quick $200,000.
Yeah, no kidding.
AFC, AFC South, that could be Colts. Anthony Richardson's back for a full year, according to right now.
Yep, Jonathan Taylor running the ball.
Yep,
they've got talent.
Jaguars, Texans, Titans. I mean, that division feels like it's up for grabs, but also feels like it's locked down already by the Texans.
True.
You look at the AFC North, I mean, you would expect the Ravens to put up a fight, but if Burrow's healthy, I almost think the Bengals have an amazing chance, especially now that they've got that Burton guy they drafted,
right,
who's come out firing.
Yep.
Steelers are in shambles. Browns, you don't expect anything from because Deshaun Watson might finally play.
Yeah.
After
what's he gonna
2
be,
years,
right?
Yeah, what does he look like?
That's a big if.
AFC West, can any of these teams catch the Chiefs? Doesn't feel like it, but maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, the Raiders have the best defense out of the three of them, it feels like right now, but also have one of the worst offenses. It's like,
yeah,
who knows? Well, not worst offense. They got Kazir White. They've got Devontae Adams, 2 first-round tight ends. You'd expect to be able to make something happen there, but who knows? It's Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah. Oh, look. Browns Deshaun Watson limited in practice with arm soreness.
No.
This guy will never play.
Do you think this might... Okay, we're going to switch topics. This might be, those are kind of our opinions on what to look forward to this season. But I just want to touch on this since the article just came out. We're recording this August 21st, so bear with us. But, Deshaun Watson, did he have the best fleecing job? The biggest heist of an NFL player of all time.
Of all time.
If he doesn't play more than a total of 10 games.
Absolutely. I mean, the deal he got for one, but what the Browns gave up to get him is a whole nother thing. And it's crazy. And look at what the Texans did with it.
Stacked.
And the Browns have somehow, despite the fact that
their defense is one of the best in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, they're up there.
Yeah.
They're going to be in.
If that offense was just okay.
Yeah. And look at what they did with all the patchwork. I mean, Josh Dobbs.
Derek Judy.
Flacco,
obviously lighting up Amari Cooper. Jerry Judy's over. We're back. Sorry about that, guys. We ran out of space on the hard drive. But, Browns even have Jerry Judy is, I think, where we kind of left off at.
That's right.
But the fact that they've made it this far, they've done this well, and Deshaun Watson seems to just not play in games. And, maybe it's more than we think, but it's still not a full season.
Yeah.
It seems like all these headlines keep coming up that there's something wrong. There's something going on. One thing leads to another, and he's not playing. It just happened to work out that last year they had Joe Flacco, and Flacco decided that he wanted to show his kids what dad used to be, at one point in his career. And they were balling, and they've added to it. So even the Browns in the AFC North probably got a good shot of being good again.
It's amazing that they've been that good with him not even being a part of it, and it's just disappointing.
It really is. But Other than that,
this is kind of it.
That's kind of all I have. Kind of sidetracked into the Browns talk because that popped up, but that's all I have.
I was going to try to look and see how many games he's played because I'm curious too. But
good Lord,
he's played in 12 games in 2 seasons with the Browns. He was suspended 11 games in 2020, and he made 6 starts last season before undergoing surgery.
Okay, so he started as many as he could the first season.
Yeah.
And then last year he got hurt.
Yeah.
And now it's feeling like it's lingering a little bit more than before.
Yeah. Because it just seems like he didn't practice. Well, he was going to practice, then he doesn't practice. So, I don't know.
Well, who knows?
Anyway.
Next week's NFL, that's what matters. We'll see what Deshaun Watson looks like if he does play and if he doesn't. But, some of our favorite headlines we're kind of looking forward to going into the regular season. We kind of talked about the entire league as a whole. But, hey, we need to fill this week with something. And then next week, it'll be picks, plays, who we think's going to win, who we don't think's going to win.
Maybe fantasy, probably.
A little fantasy.
So that'll be our September 4th show,
Yes.
Definitely sports betting.
Definitely sports betting. We got to get back into the Coy Pond pick.
Over, under plus.
Over, under plus. So, that's all we got.
Right on.
We will see you all next week for the best week of the year.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye.